Hello and welcome to Thoughts in the Green Room with your host, Geoff Mays. You know, there are so many tools in the actor's tool belt that help them develop, create, and finally produce the characters that you watch on stage and screen. With all these different approaches and all these different ways, there is no one way which an actor is going to succeed, but we have to use all of those tools. And today, I want to talk about one specific tool, which is using yourself to help you find the character. Let's take a listen. All right, so last time I posted, I talked about knowing thyself and understanding who we are as a person in order to be able to access our character. It was a pretty long post. It may have sounded a little convoluted for some people out there. It may have been direct line for other people. But I today would like to take that just a little bit further and talk about knowing how to use yourself to find character. Now, when I say use yourself, I have to share something about me first. I have heard that note directed to me from various coaches, teachers, friends, colleagues, you name it, somebody has said it to me literally hundreds of times. Geoff, just use yourself. And I'll be honest, when I hear that note, it's always made me defensive because, well, this is my thought. How can I not be using myself? I'm the one saying the dialogue on the page. Where am I not being used? Drives me nuts. Literally drove me nuts. As time's progressed, I've started to maybe get a better understanding of it. And I truly think that last post started to touch on it at a much higher level. The idea of knowing thyself and understanding what makes me tick allows me to better access a character. But distilling that down into something that's much more simplistic, I'll share what happened to me I think it was last week, maybe it was a week before, in one of my classes. A fellow colleague was doing a scene, and they were doing a pretty good job with it. The scene was essentially between two slaves in some future society, and the one slave had been picked up and was going to be made concubine to the queen. They were about to be put into the high level of life and have all the benefits of being a royal in this futuristic world. The scene that my colleague was doing was the last meeting between these two characters, when the one slave says goodbye to the other before they go and become a rich and famous personality in the future world. The actor, my fellow colleague, they did a pretty good job with it, but even in their own critique and the assessment from the class, they were saying, I missed something, I'm not sure what, where was it? I heard the age-old note, use yourself. The actor looked blankly at the person who threw the note. They were like, what? The acting coach stepped in and asked this simple question. What happens when you and your best acting friend go in for the lead of a series? You both walk out and you find out the next day that your friend got the lead for the series. And they're about to be shipped off to somewhere in Europe for a 3-year time frame to shoot this 700 episodes or whatever it is. They're about to become disgustingly rich and famous because it's some new Marvel adaptation or something like that. And the actor went, and I say the actor went, but the whole class went, oh yeah. It was a collective sigh that we all did because it made sense. The actor responded to the coach and said, I get it. Exact same scene, isn't it? To which the coach nodded yes. And that was the moment, folks, when I understood the note of use yourself. What in my life is relatable and transferable to the scene? As an actor, many times you're given suggestions to imagine things or make things up or extrapolate and take further. And that's easily enough done. We can spin webs in our head to the cows come home if we wanted to. And that may help us. And for some of you out there who are actors, that might be your perfect line through this imagined world in your brain, and all of a sudden it's real for you. But in my observations of myself as well as other actors, I find that if you can source material that's relatable or directly transferable, portraying the character in the scene becomes so much more powerful in my impression, my understanding, my observation. So using that example from last week's or the weeks before class, whatever it was, And thinking about that scene of two slaves, and one's about to be elevated to the highest levels possible in the future society, and the other is going to be left behind, the friends are never ever again going to come together. They will never see or relate or speak to each other. It's a moment of both glory and sadness for both characters. That, in my world, is no different than my best friend getting cast in a major series and being shipped off to the stardom of Hollywood. Yeah, we may have a coffee or a phone call, but in reality, outside of that coffee, that phone call, that email, it's going to be difficult for us to continue the interaction the way it is. And there will be joy and there will be sadness in that moment for me to see my friend elevated, to see my friend part, some self-doubt and sorrow within myself for not being the one who got the major role. But you can hear that the analogy, it's the exact same as the scene. So, with that said, I ask you, actors out there, this simple question. When you're doing a scene, how is that scene exactly like or exceptionally close to something that you've either experienced or can directly relate to in your own life? When you answer that question about any scene, you have fulfilled the note about using yourself, because you will bring that emotional content from the thing which you know so well into the scene. And that will bring life to what you're doing as an actor. It will make you believable to the audience because you won't have to fake the emotion. It will exist when you recall the moment that you've already lived through. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are your thoughts from the green room. I'm your host, Geoff Mays, and we will see you